Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. Thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday morning for a hot cup of coffee and a hot cup of the Word of God. I mentioned that it's Sunday, therefore it is a new week, and therefore it is a new Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is taken from Exodus chapter 21, verse 1, going all the way to chapter 24, verse 18, and it is called Mishpatim, which means judgments. So today's passage is taken from Exodus 21, verses 1 through 19, but I'm just going to read verses 2 through 6. It says, if you buy a Hebrew slave, he is to serve you for 6 years, and in the 7th year, he's to go free without payment. If he comes in by himself, he is to go out by himself. If he was married, then his wife is to go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children will be her master's, and he will go free by himself. But if the servant plainly states, I love my master, my wife, and my children, and I don't want to go out free, then his master is to bring him to God, and other translations say bring him to the judges or to the elders. Then take him to a door or to a doorpost. So this is implying a legal, publicly displayed action. The judges sat at the city gates or at the door of the city or at the door of some special building, and that's where they heard arguments, made their rulings. So it's at this door. His master is to pierce his ear with an awl, and he will serve him forever. You know what? I grew up in the 80s, and in the 80s, it was only cool for a guy to pierce his left ear, right? I mean, and then the 90s came, and then both ears started getting pierced and what have you. Yeah, I've had my ears pierced. But right now, as to this day, in my left ear, I have a 6-gauged hole that is held open by a silicone tunnel. Now, am I doing it to be cool? Am I doing it? I mean, gosh, why would I say that? I'm not doing it to be cool. I'm like flipping 50 years old. You know, I'm way past cool, right? So why do I have my ear pierced? This is just for me. I'm not saying it's for you. I'm not saying the Bible commands you to do it. I'm just doing it to kind of reenact, relive, to bring to life Exodus chapter 21, verses 2 through 6. Because when people see me have this silicone tunnel, say, hey man, that's pretty cool. Why'd you do that? Or why did you only do one ear? Then it's an open door to witness to say, you know what? And then I tell them about Exodus 21, about if there's a slave that loves his master so much that he wants to be a slave for life, then he gets his ear pierced. I am a slave of God. I am a slave of Messiah Yeshua. I want to be a slave for life. So I pierced my ear to tell the world I'm a slave. Now, why would a slave say, I love my master? Because he had to probably sell himself into slavery because he was so far in debt? He didn't have a very good life up to that point. He was scrounging and scrimping and hustling just to try to get by. And then he was purchased as a slave, which slavery, back in the Old Testament, is a way different concept than the westernized concept of slavery and the slave trade, etc. Basically, it was just like having a hired hand. They treated slaves just like as a hired hand, and even some points as part of the extended family. So they were treated really well. The guy had 3 hots and a cot. He had a job with a purpose that made a difference. He had a wife and kids, and he's like, hey, I don't want to go free. I've got it way too good here. I love my master. He's good to me. I love my wife. I love my children. I want to be a slave for life. And so that kind of points to us as being slaves to God, slaves to Messiah Yeshua, because we have it so good with him. We used to live a life of slavery to sin, and slavery to sin was a harsh taskmaster. We hustled and we scrimped to get by, and yeah, there might have been some, temporary seasonal moments of pleasure and sin for a short season, but ultimately we lived a miserable life. It was dark and gloomy and cold. Then we were saved and rescued and bought by the blood, purchased by the blood of Yeshua, and we became his slave for life. We've got it so good. We've got so many blessings with him. So, do you have your ear pierced? Guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom, and God bless.